Okay. Yes. Yes. Start. अनम्यूट करके ऑडियो करो, वीडियो भी करो.
Good afternoon to one and all. Matru Seva Sangh Institute of Social Work has been hosting a series of webinars on various important issues. And today it is proud to host yet another web event of equal global importance. Social work practice in art, public health, and among the vulnerables. At the outset, I welcome our Honorable President of Matru Seva Sangh, Mrs. Aruna Babulkar, our Secretary, Dr. Lata Deshmukh, our Treasurer, Dr. Vasanti Deshpande, and other esteemed dignitaries of the Management Committee, distinguished speakers, my colleagues, staff, students, and other respectable participants from other institutions, organizations, and colleges. I welcome each one of you. We have with us our webinar director, Dr. Jyoti Nisware. It's my privilege to introduce her before you. She is the principal, Matru Seva Sangh Institute of Social Work. She is the director of Women's Distress Cell Family Counseling Center. She is the director of Nagpur Childline. She is the course coordinator of postgraduate certificate in counseling. She has 6 students for supervision for PhD. She has authored 2 books, more than 30 papers. She has presented in national and international conferences and seminars, and around 19 papers she has published in journals and books. She was a coordinator of research project on slum communities achieving livable environment with urban partners to analyze the urban poverty situations and the government responses towards the existing poverty situations in 3 slums of Nagpur city. This project was supported by CHF International, Washington, D.C., USA, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. She is an expert member of study group constituted by Maharashtra State Mining Corporation. She has been awarded various research projects. She is the recipient of Best Paper Presentation Award. She is a recipient of 2016 Outstanding Author Contribution Award by Emerald Literati Network for the chapter. She is also reviewer of SOCIUM, International Journal of Social Sciences and Humanities, published by Polytechnic Negeri, Bali, Indonesia. She is a life member of several organizations, including life member of Asian and Pacific's Association for Social Work Education, founder member of World Center for Women Studies, life member of All India Women Study Association. She is associated with several universities in India for academic assignments. It's my privilege to introduce Madam, and now I invite Madam for her introductory remarks. Dr. Jyoti Nisware.
Thank you, Dr. Nandita. Good afternoon to one and all. I am Dr. Jyoti Nisware. Today we have this virtual webinar on social work practice in art, public health, and among vulnerables. As we are in the midst of battling with the pandemic caused by the coronavirus, it is challenging. It is a challenge before all of us to not let this global catastrophe affect our teaching and learning process. With a view to provide online scholarly guidance during the crisis situation to the students, scholars, academicians, and community at large, the Institute is organizing several national and international webinars during this period. On this occasion, we have with us for inspiration and guiding support the most respected Dr. Lata Deshmukh, Honorable Secretary, Matru Seva Sangh. I welcome you, Madam. I welcome all the participants of this webinar. Friends, prior to the 19th century, social work was closely intertwined with poverty relief, a duty that members of the clergy often perform. Modern social work, starting in the late 19th and early 20th century, finds its root in social concerns and scientific practice. Today, the social work profession continues to evolve, espousing trends that respond to 21st century societal needs. Whether they work in hospitals, schools, private practice, or other social settings, social counseling, social workers perform a variety of duties from one-on-one and group mental health counseling to administering social service programs. Current social work trends have developed in response to societal factors related to education, economics, living standards, and other facets that plays an integral role in our day-to-day lives. The main ways of social work responding to the globalization of social processes are the revision of its mission and task, the expansion of its scope and role, the internalization of the profession, the extension of its efforts to the international level, the increased understanding of the interconnection of global, regional, and local dimensions of social problems. In India, social work emerged as a formal discipline to the far older tradition of voluntary social work in 1936 with the establishment of the Tata Institute of Social Sciences in Mumbai. Later on established in 1958, the Matru Seva Sangh Institute of Social Work Nagpur today has grown and expanded into a leading institution of social work education in central India. It evolved with a core and perspective from certificate course in social work to bachelor in social work, master in social work, MPhil in social work, and PhD program in social work. The institute also have several short-term certificate courses like course in counseling, communicative English, research methodology. The institute is recognized as a place for high learning and research by the Rashtra Santa Tukaji Maharaj, Nagpur University. Friends, the main idea of organizing today's webinar is to understand the scope of social work practice in times of contemporary challenges around us. The arts can be a way to embody group work at this time through, through providing an additional intense sensory and symbolic form of communication. Arts-based methods can help to provide effective group work, self-care, supervision, and community interventions. The trends in developing new tools, models in social practice, therapy is taking another milestones. It will be interesting to understand the use of art in social work research and practice. For this, we have speakers from Israel, Professor Efrat Haas. She is Professor, Department of Social Work, Ben Gurion University of Negev, Israel. And Dr. Menahem Malka, Lecturer, School of Suffolk College, Israel. Healthy people in healthy communities. Communities are both the physical and cultural settings in action to promote the public health. In this time of corona crisis, we must understand the multiple dimensions of community and its critical importance to an effective public health system, particularly in India. A healthy community is a place where people provide leadership in assessing their own resources and needs, where public health and social infrastructure and policies support health, and where essential public health services, including quality healthcare, are available. In a healthy community, communication and collaboration among various sectors of the community and the contributions of ethnically, socially, and economically diverse community members are valued, in which the social work intervention has wider opportunity. Today, we are going to understand more in depth on public health and role of local communities in times of corona. Our speaker, Dr. Swati Dharmadhikari, Associate Professor, Tirupuri College of Social Work, will address us on this important aspect of public health during corona crisis. Vulnerables are persons that experience a high risk of poverty, social exclusions, discrimination, and violence than the general population, including ethnic minorities, migrants, people with disabilities, isolated, elderly people, and children. With urbanization and industrialization and increasing forces of the market, it is always the poorer section who suffer. They have neither their sources nor the skills to withstand strain, to buy services or totalize new opportunities. Social workers must be able to institute services which will smoothen the change by providing rehabilitative, retraining, and community support facilities. The significance of developing organic links between a community and its economy, building effective grassroots level leadership, and addressing felt needs of a community within the complex development process. The module that will be discussed in today's webinar on vulnerabilities and Indian village communities may be useful for local level development practice. For this, we have our eminent speaker and scholar, Dr. Ajit Kumar, retired professor, associate professor, Matru Seva Sangh Institute of Social Work, Nagpur. The role of National Service Scheme in catalyzing the youths of India in taking up the civic responsibility and serve the society, communities, and in disaster is remarkable module. Dr. Keshav Walke, Associate Professor and Director of National Service Scheme, will share the community-based responsibility carried by the youths to provide relief and awareing the communities during COVID-19 crisis. Technology is emerging as new trends in the present time in social work practice. Technology can be used to facilitate varied forms of services, including counseling, case management, support, and other social work functions. Technology may also be used to facilitate communication with clients, obtain information from clients, provide information to the client, and facilitate various interventions. I'm sure the practice model that to be presented by each speaker today will add body of knowledge and inspire social work fraternity to further enhance research-based intervention and field-based practice that is need of the present time. To conclude, I am grateful to our Honorable Management, Dr. Aruna Babulkar, Honorable President, Matru Seva Sangh, and Dr. Vasanti Deshpande, Honorable Treasurer, Matru Seva Sangh, and all other esteemed members of the Matru Seva Sangh for providing continuous support and guidance in all our endeavors. I thank my organizing team, Dr. Prince Agashe, Dr. Nandita Mane, Ms. Payal Samarkar, Mr. Gajanan Netam, and Sandeep Kotha for working hard as a team to make series of webinars that we are organizing during this pandemic period. I'm sure the sessions will be enriching and enlightening to each one of you. My best wishes to one and all. Thank you for joining with us. All the best to you.
Thank you, madam. We have with us Honorable Dr. Lata Deshmukh, Secretary Matru Seva Sangh. It's an honor to introduce Madam. Madam has retired as an Associate Professor in Chemistry and Vice Principal of Hislop College, Nagpur. She's still working as Director, Postgraduate Department of Chemistry, Ira Nimdevkar Research Lab. Madam is an academician par excellence and an accomplished scholar. She's constantly involved in the teaching learning process and in disseminating the finer aspects of her learning to the society. 7 students have been awarded PhD under her supervision. With equal passion, sincerity, dedication, and devotion, she fulfills her role as Secretary of Matru Seva Sangh. Under her able leadership and administration, she has brought many laurels to this organization. She's also working in the field of women's empowerment and child rights protection. She also provides direct supervision leadership to various activities of the Matru Seva Sangh. She's the quintessential social worker and hence has been awarded and rewarded on several occasions. Recently, she has been awarded with the Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar Samaj Bhushan Puraskar, while the Punya Shlok Ahilyabai Holkar Award has been declared. Thank you, madam. And now I request you, madam, and then I invite you for your welcome address, Dr. Lata Deshmukh.
Greetings to all the participants of this international webinar on social work practice in art, public health, and among the vulnerables on behalf of Matru Seva Sangh. I am glad that Ben Gurion University of Negev, Israel, and School of Social Work, Sapphire College, Israel, are collaborating with Matru Seva Sangh Institute of Social Work to discuss on the tools of social work practice in working with groups, urban rural communities, which are vulnerable, and challenges to public health during the pandemic. Padma Shri Kamlate Hospital and Srimati Venutai Nene. Women were not given proper services during pregnancy and labor, and hence these ladies, with great love, affection, dedication, and concern, provided safe motherhood and motivated for safe delivery at maternity homes. That is 100 years back. This was their vision for needy, poor, and deprived women and children. Today, the world is promoting hospital delivery to reduce maternal and child mortality. With passage of time, Kamlate Hospital started nursing training, and these trained nurses were sent to different villages around Nagpur, Maharashtra, and Madhya Pradesh to start maternity homes, so that large number of women are benefited. These maternity homes now are the branches of Matru Seva Sangh. The main objective of the trust was to teach, train, and rehabilitate the urban rural women folks, thus to empower them and lead them an independent life and also serve the society. Then comes Dr. Satyabala Sai, who started a school of social work under a tree with very few young students to teach social work and train social workers. She founded MSS Institute of Social Work in 1958 with her devoted efforts, adding one more service-oriented project as a branch to the big banyan tree of Matru Seva Sangh, having 12 branches and 12 service projects and activities. I am sure today's webinar would reflect on problems, challenges, and crucial issues which nation is facing during COVID-19 pandemic situation. I am also expecting that this webinar will help in developing certain measures to face the situation. Before I finish, I am grateful to today's guest speakers, Professor Efrat Hass, Dr. Manhem Malka, Dr. Ajit Kumar, Dr. Swati Dharmadikari, and Dr. Keshav Varke. I thank Dr. Jyoti Niswade, principal of this institute, for inviting me to this webinar. Thank you all, and I wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam, for inspiring words and always encouraging us and guiding us. We now head towards our session. We have with us two renowned scholars from Israel who will be presenting their paper. We have with us Dr. Menahem Malka, lecturer, School of Social Work, Sapir Academic College, Israel. We have Professor Ifrat Hass. It's my privilege to introduce them. Professor Hass is as a professor of social work at Ben Gurion University of the Negev, where she chairs an innovative MA in art for social workers. She has researched and published extensively on arts-based research methods with marginalized groups, arts and sense of coherence, creative community, and place making through arts and social and critical theories in art therapy. She is at present researching psychosocial interventions with refugees in Lesbos and editing a book on arts to transform society and on arts-based research in social practice. She has published over 80 articles and 2 theoretical and 2 edited books on art therapy and arts-based research within social contexts, using the arts in social research and practice, and a theory-based textbook for teaching art therapy, as well as an international handbook on arts in social practice. She has also received competitive grants and given plenary lectures on this subject. I now welcome Professor Ifrat Hass to present a paper on art in social work practice domain in times of Corona. Professor Hass.
Thank you very much. Nadita, can I upload can you make me into a co-host so I can upload my PowerPoint?
Sure, sure. You're already a co-host.
Okay, so I can upload my PowerPoint and then I will immediately start. Hello, everybody, welcome. I'm very excited to be here and very happy to be at your wonderful conference. My name, as we said, is Professor Ifrat Hass, and I'm, can you see? Just a minute. I'm trying to check if you can see.
Yes, everything it's okay.
Yeah,
it's yellow, yellow
visible.
presentation.
Yes. If you see yellow, that's very good. Okay. So you're not colorblind, and also you're on the right one. So that's good. I will start immediately. And what I'm going to talk about today, I don't know exactly in India how the corona crisis in terms of shutdown and everything is working, but I'm assuming we're all in the same crisis. And I'm going to look a little at how art can maybe help us in the central aims of social work, which are to create a strong connection to our clients and to continue this connection also in a crisis situation. So first of all, of course, theoretically, if we're talking about the corona crisis, we're talking about a shared reality crisis where both social workers and clients and communities are experiencing at the same time the same crisis, which is a challenge for professional people as they have to contain their own stress and also help others. They have to find new ways of working. They have to create knowledge on the ground. And research shows this can create a sense of compassion fatigue, secondary trauma, but it can also create a place for secondary growth, for post-traumatic growth, where we can feel that we're useful, that we're growing and changing as professionals. So there's a potential here for us to grow as social work professionals. And I'm going to suggest maybe the arts could be one useful medium for helping us to bridge the challenges of this crisis. And the challenges of this crisis are on the community level. Of course, we have loneliness, loss of contact with people, loss of security, fear, anxiety over health and financial issues, loss of routine and structures that create identity. On the family level, we have loss of systemic organization, missing and worrying about people, living very closely suddenly, not going to work, yes, going to work. The family system, the community system is disrupted and challenged. And on the individual psychological level, of course, we have stress, we have fear, we have people with additional problems, then we have an extra burden. If you have a disability, cognitive or emotional, we have former traumas coming up. So on all the ecological levels of community, family, and individual, we have challenges on top of the usual challenges. And of course, the marginalized groups, as you said before, very well, will be extra challenged by all these elements. So these are the things that we have. And I want to talk about how maybe, if we're speaking about online communication and crisis intervention, how the arts can specifically help. So here we have a picture of a little bag of small art products that we can bring maybe to the computer, that we can go into communities with. And we know what helps in a crisis. Things that help in a crisis, we know, is to give people. I just want to check, is it, am I speaking too quickly? Is it clear? Is it okay? Just to check that the, yes, okay.
Yes, you are quite clear.
Okay,
Excellent.
good. I'll try and speak a little slower. I'm a very quick person, but I will try and speak a little slower. So we have here, in terms of the crisis, so our aims in this crisis are to provide people with a sense of control, efficiency, and challenge instead of helplessness. And the arts are an action-based activity, so they can help us do this. Another thing we want to do is enable people to communicate with others, even if they're in shutdown or far away or scared of catching the illness. Then we want to try and help intensify communication. And we want to create some kind of coherent, enabling narrative of this crisis. And of course, focus on internal and external resources and how we can cope and what are our ways of coping with this crisis. And so let's start, if we spoke about Bonafride's ecological levels, let's start on the community level. So we want to, maybe we can use art to embody communication and counteract the loneliness and the fear of the shutdown. Maybe we can use art to extend and bridge communication if we cannot meet our clients. And maybe we can use art as a way to create a sense of belonging in a community. So now I'm going down to images. So here we have, for example, if we're speaking to someone on the Zoom, or if we're not speaking to someone on the phone, on the WhatsApp, we're not able to meet the person. We know that online communication can make us feel very lonely because we miss a lot of the communication. We only see the head and we can't understand the body language. So we miss a lot of the communication. And for a social worker, the central aim is to create good, strong communication. We can give information, like now I'm giving information, but it's very hard to create communication. Yes, so art could be one way in which we can extend the communication online, in which we can create some kind of happening together. We can bring the whole body into the communication. We can also kind of, through using the video, we can go into the house of the person and experience how they feel their space and what's happening in their space, rather than having only the screen. So we can use art to embody what we call embody communication, intensify communication, bring all the senses into communication, bring depth. These are very important things. We can use art symbolically to create symbolic experiences of communication. We can create, if we're working with children, we can create an activity that we can both do together, although we're far away. So art can embody communication. Art can help turn it into a whole body thing rather than just giving information. Yes? So these examples of this, art can also be a way to extend communication between meetings. If we give someone a notebook and we ask them to draw every day how they feel, what's happening, to make a story. So we can create books. We can create things that continue the communication, even if we're not able to visit our clients, even if we're far away. And within this communication, we can create all kinds of maybe enabling narratives, positive narratives. We can give information. So we can create books. We can send every day a photograph to each other. There are kind of ways that we can use the arts to intensify the communication. So the art helps us, first of all, bring out our own feelings and our own experience, and also helps us share it and intensify communication. I'm going to go a little quicker because we're a little later than we thought, and I want to give time also to many. So if we're talking about family, so art can be a good way to reorganize the system, to find out how everybody, each person is experiencing the crisis. For instance, here we have an image of a mother, and she's saying how she has to also, she's a student, she has to study and she has to look after the children and she has to look after the house, and everything is very much for her. That is her experience. Maybe in some kind of systemic organization, we can understand everyone's experience if, first of all, they can bring up their own experience, put it on the page, and then explain it. So the father may be feeling very, very financially troubled and very stressed, and the mother may be feeling this, and this creates some kind of modulation of the system where we can communicate what we're feeling. For instance, in this example, we have an image of the family before the corona with the flowers, and then the black where the corona comes up and everything becomes a little chaotic. And then gradually we have an image also of the future, of how we can gradually organize our experience, how we can reorganize the family, or we can create a symbol of the strengths and the resources of this family. For in this family, for instance, it feels like a strong tree where they have very strong roots, so they think they'll be able to manage the crisis. We can organize experience, we can divide space, we can create timetables for the family. We can, most importantly, because crises bring out a lot of violence in systems, most importantly, we can provide a non-violent way of communicating negative feelings, maybe. For example, by drawing, by sublimating, by expressing our negative feelings before they erupt into violence, then we can explore them and we can think how to make everyone feel a little bit better in the family. Here we see kind of also examples of work that can be done on a psychoeducational, psychosocial level with negative feelings. If we capture those negative feelings and turn them into words before they turn into violence, then maybe we can help with that. With teenagers, we can create a space, an individual space for the teenager, even if now they're stuck at home because of the coronavirus. In our country, many people are in lockdown. And of course, on the most personal level, then we can use art as safe spaces, as places to calming images. We can self-regulate our stress. We can use the arts to self-regulate our stress, to express and thus also control our difficult experiences. And we can use art to try and excavate the resources that we have to deal with this crisis. For example, in this image, we see someone is closed in lockdown, cannot go out to work. That's the stress. And the resource is that to think that it's maybe quality time with the family, maybe it could be good time to be together with the family. Here we see someone feeling very unsure about their future on the right-hand side, my right-hand side, and on the left-hand side, we see that what gives them strength, there's still many question marks about the future, but they're holding the hand of the person they love. So our human resources can give us strength. Here we see someone feeling very alone in the world, cut off, but then remembering, reframing that to remember that everyone is inside their houses and feeling alone and scared. Here someone feels their world has become much smaller, but then they've added the colors to try and think, how can I create out of this small world, find new colors, new interesting things. Here someone turned to religion, with the story of Noah's Ark and the flood, how the world is kind of being rubbed out maybe by this virus. But there's also image of Noah's Ark that will save the people. Here we have images of corona, little animals, corona animals. And in the second one, we have an image of turning off the television, not listening all the time to the stressful news, but trying to find places, moments of peace, and looking at other programs. Here we have the feeling that maybe I could be a superwoman and help others who are having a hard time, which is a very strong resource. Here maybe I could use online communication like we are doing now to expand my knowledge and expand the people and resources that I have. So we can use art in a directed way to help us define the phenomenology of what is the problem for us. We're all in the same crisis, but for some it will be a trauma, for some it will be a crisis, for some it will be an opportunity. There will be many different experiences. So we can first of all create a kind of intake. How is my community experiencing this? And we can also challenge them to think of resources. We can use creativity to think of the resources that they have. And so in this talk, and I'm going to finish my part now and many will continue. In this talk, what I wanted to say was that the arts can be very useful in social work for intensifying communication between meetings when we're cut off, turning Maslow's triangle of basic needs upside down and saying that if we have creativity, if we have an image of the future, if we have that kind of space, maybe we can find the resources that will help us deal with the much more basic, very, very serious problems that we deal with in social work. So arts and social work kind of turns Maslow's triangle upside down and says, first find the phenomenological resources, find the meaning, find the comprehension, find the manageability in the symbolic space of art, and then we can expand this to other spaces in our life. And we talked about using the arts as such a resource, as we see that so much of our communication nowadays is visual. And this can be a resource that is often ignored in social work and is now beginning to become quite a serious field in social work that people are interested in exploring. So we covered the community, the family, the individual, and we looked at the different ways that art can help in these elements. And I'm going to share my screen, and we will move to Meni, me and Meni work a lot together, and he will continue this lecture with a much more specific example. I gave the theory, and now Meni will give the example. So thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Hus. And your presentation has a beautiful idea of using art as an embodied communicative tool for social work in times of crisis. And now I invite Professor Menahem Malka for his presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Efrat, for your interesting presentation. And I would like to thank Dr. Jyoti and the wonderful people of Matro Seva Sang Institute of Social Work and the Nagpur people. Nagpur, it's like my second family. So thank you for the opportunity to share knowledge on the common issues with India and Israel. And I'm going to give a presentation about photo voice as creative coping tool with the Corona crisis, the case of practical training seminar for social work students. In this presentation, I would like to present the photo voice as creative tool of art that used to deal with the corona crisis in the framework of training seminar for social work students. The corona crisis has lead social workers, social work educators, social work students, and service users to face a new reality, as well as redefining social distance and interaction between person and his environment. Following the call for social work educators to assimilate creativity in the classroom, I decided to use photo voice in one of my classrooms in order to encourage my students to explore the new reality and learn from it. A few words about photo voice. So photo voice is a methodology developed from the critical research based on the three body of knowledge, Paulo Freire critical pedagogy, feminism as a theory of social justice, and the art-based research. Basically, the implementation of photo voice is based on group process designed to document issues that emerge in members' daily lives through photo and narrative. The group members collect and build database for their community knowledge and their live experience. And finally, the group process and the documented photo voices are used to organize the community in action for change and impact on the policy makers. In the last 2 decades, photo voice has been applied within the field of social work, for example, in social work education, in international social work, intervention in communities coping with a natural disaster, and working with children of addicts. So about the training seminar, my class, 16 final year students attend the seminar. The training seminar is a mandatory course which takes place throughout, during which students deal with dilemmas from his practical training. The seminar allows students to address issues related to their professional identity. And by the beginning of the second semester of this year, with the outbreak of the Corona crisis, the seminar session became online through Zoom. You can see a picture of my students. This is one of the sessions through Zoom. At the first Zoom session, students reported concerns and fear about the Corona crisis in a way that was consistent with the concept of a shared reality. That is a traumatic, challenging, complicated experience of the inner world in the face of external reality that both professional and service user face with. Among other things, the students report on feeling of helplessness, concern that they might waste their opportunity to get ready for graduation, a lack of knowledge, process of regression. For example, we forget anything we learned, we don't know nothing, reducing the value of new ideas that are different from the ideal professional model they learned. So at this moment, there was a sense that the Corona crisis and its effects were bigger, you can see in the slide, were bigger than the students as individual, as well as the group. And against this background, I decided to change the teaching program of the training seminar and use and incorporated the photo voice into alternative curriculum, mainly to allow seminar participants to observe and learn from their experience of dealing with the Corona crisis and adapting to the new reality. So I work in 5 stages, you can see, 5 stages model. The first one was orientation. This stage consists of some of the explanation about the photo voice, ethical principles, and weekly assignment that the students were asked to create a photo voice about my experience as third-year students undergoing practical training during the coronavirus crisis. The second stage, prior to the seminar, each session, each student sent me the photo voice he had prepared. And at the beginning of the session, the photo voices were presented in the joint presentation. This is example of it. The presentation was followed by critical group dialogue on difficulties as well as new ideas and experiences of coping and success. So I'm going to show a few examples. So in the first one, out of the box, in this example, the students use the photography of box that symbolized the need for different and creative thinking in the face of the new reality. This led the group members to discuss new practices and ideas. For example, a group member said she had a service user conversation while walking in the park and how it helped her, it helped the conversation flow. Other two students told about the video they made on YouTube with instructions for teens on how to deal with uncertainty and created a daily routine. In another example, in this case, the students described the rapid process of when he went through, entitled "The Show Must Go On." Is a narrative promoted a group discussion about the new clinical setting. For example, a student asked what kind of knowledge and skill are required to conduct an online therapeutic session, or it is okay to have coffee while being on the phone with the service user. This is the examples. In the third example, so through the use of few objects, you can see watch, pen, glass, the students symbolize his contemporary coping with tasks that Corona crisis make difficult to implement. And in the group dialogue, the various representation reflect in the photo voice contributed to a sense of unity and normalization in the group. And the understanding that there are situations over which they have no control. This move allowed the group members to open up to new ideas later in the meeting. The third stage of the seminar was deconstruction, analyze the dialogue, which means that 68 photo voices were presented during the seminar, enabling a dialogue between participants on difficulties stemming from the shared reality they're experiencing, as well as coping method and new knowledge. And we analyzed this together, and four key themes were identified. So I'm going to present these themes. The first one was challenges, questions, and concerns. These themes consist of issues associated with gaps between the desirable and the possible. For example, how to keep touch with young adults during the Corona crisis, difficulties forming a relationship with service user, and so on. The second thing was conceptualization of the situation, of the new situation. This then reflects the attempt to see the new reality through existing knowledge. For example, elements of denial and resistance to change, what online empathy means, a regression process, legitimation of fears, and so on. The third theme was coping practices, and these themes reflect coping methods reported by the student, such as shifting to online group session, using creativity, talking while walking, and thinking outside the box. The fourth theme was hope for the future. And this theme reflects students' hope to positive thinking toward the future, based on the understanding that life has changed and that human beings have the ability to survive change and crisis. In this term, students discuss on issues like plans for the future, the importance of the day after, and hope for a better future. The fourth stage of the seminar was reconstruction. After we deconstruct, now we reconstruction. So in the next step, the group member wrote a poem in which the group scoping resources are embodied in the face of the problem and difficulties. This poem, writing in 5 chapters, is another example of using art as a group community means of dealing or coping with the crisis. The poem is example of how the collaborative group effort created an opportunity to reorganize the group and community story, which is a story that the members of the group have now become its owners. This process is defined by the narrative theory as a transition from the dominant story, in which the story told about the problem, the corona crisis, contributes to a problem defeating the person or the community. So shifting to the alternative story, through which the lived experience and the knowledge of community members helps to reduce the destructive effects of the problem of their lives. And the last stage, sharing our knowledge in the community and creating new meanings. The next step, which is an ongoing step, was to share the group's adaptation model and insight across different platforms. For example, among other students, faculty members in social work school, among the professional community of social workers in Israel, and publication in journals. This step has created new meaning in the process of student coping with the corona crisis, and a different or a positive self-perception of students as adapting to the new situation. Following the group process, the ability of the groups and each students to deal with the crisis has improved. In other words, the negative effect of the virus on the group's adaptation to the new reality were reduced. So for conclusion, the use of photo voice has a number of contributions in the process of dealing with the crisis. The first one, photo voice allow the students to move from a reactive, passive position to an active learner position. It's according with Kolb's theory of circle of learning, experimental learning, to create a reflective space of inquiry and learning from the new shared reality, to allow students an experience of coping as a group that is a part of community, the social work students community, to create an opportunity to learn a new professional tool, and empowerment and sense of control within the new reality. In terms of Vinoba Bhava ideas, that we cannot let our problems to be bigger than us, and in line with the narrative approach, it can be argued that the use of photo voice contributed to reduce the power of the problem in the students' coping experience. You can see before and after. And thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Many, for a wonderful presentation. And I request the participants, if you have any questions, you can type your questions in the chat box. We can take up 3 to 4 questions. If there are any questions to the participants, I request you can type your questions in the chat box. So I think all of them have enjoyed your presentations.
I just want to say, if anyone is interested in collaborating about arts and social work, then write me an email, and me and Many will be very happy to send articles and continue this conversation.
Right, I hope to visit Nagpur next year, like the 5 last year. I hope that I will be able to visit again.
You're most welcome, Many.
I know, Jyoti. I miss
See
you.
you
I miss
soon.
you a lot.
Yeah. I'm inviting Ifrat also this time. Ifrat, please do visit India.
I will be very
Okay.
happy.
I'm inviting you.
Thank you very much.
Yes. If Ifrat has who's and Professor Many, if you want to share your email ID to the participants
Yes.
so that they can mail you.
I want
Okay.
to deeply apologize that I have other meetings and I won't be able to stay for the whole conference.
I'm
Okay.
also
Thank you.
sorry.
Thank you. So we thank both our presenters. And now I invite my colleague, Ms. Payal Chamatkar, for further proceedings. Over to Payal.
Thank you, ma'am. Hello, everyone. It's great pleasure for me to introduce today's next speaker. Today, we are pleased to welcome Dr. Ajit Kumar. He is a retired associate professor at Matru Seva Sangh Institute of Social Work, Nagpur. And he has more than 33 years teaching experience at Matru Seva Sangh Institute of Social Work, Nagpur. Dr. Ajit Kumar completed his graduation from Cotton College, Guwahati, with honors in anthropology. He is an alumni of Tata Institute of Social Science, Mumbai. He did his MPhil in social work from Rashtra Sant Tukaroji Maharaj, Nagpur University, and doctorate from Sambalpur University, Odisha. Dr. Kumar was closely associated with the field action project of the institute, namely slum community development scheme and the village socio-economic development project. Similarly, Dr. Kumar completed a minor research project in rural youth mobility under UGC assistance. Likewise, he undertook projects titled Low Income Families for Indo-German Social Service Bangalore. He has published several articles and comments in the Economic and Political Weekly, as well as in the Indian Journal of Social Work on social work profession. Dr. Kumar was Associate Professor in Center for Panchayati Raj, which is come under National Institute of Rural Development and Panchayati Raj, Hyderabad, where he was conducted various training programs for elected representatives and government officers in Assam, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, and Andaman Island. He also framed curriculum for a course for Gram Panchayat secretaries. In the same way, he was Associate Professor and Deputy Director of Center for the Study of Social Exclusion and Inclusion Policy in National Law School of Indian University, where his major focused on linked research to intervention in the area of field-based studies of nomadic tribe. Dr. Arun Kumar, area of specialized in rural development, as we can see here. And today, he will be sharing with us his outlook on the vulnerabilities and Indian village communities development practice domain. I welcome Dr. Ajit Kumar to present his outlook on prescribed theme. Dr. Ajit Kumar, it's over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Payal. And I thank Dr. Jyoti and the college for giving me this opportunity. My theme is vulnerabilities and Indian village communities, development practice domain. This is in three parts. There is the context of the Indian village. Then I am going to discuss from three field studies. And then I'll briefly talk of social work intervention, which is a project which the Matru Seva Sangh Institute of Social Work conducted for about between 1990 and 1998. Dr. Payal, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir.
You are audible.
Is audible. Okay, fine. Thank you. Now, the context is the Indian village. And even today, a majority of Indians live in rural areas. If you take up, say, states like Maharashtra or Gujarat, where the rate of urbanization is very high, still about 40 to 50 live in villages. If you go to northern India, states like UP, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan, the percentage goes up to about 70%. So a majority of Indians still live in villages. There are two unique features of Indian villages. One is that this is one of the oldest living communities in the world. From the 4th century onwards, we have recorded history of a village. The village is also one of the only living system where all economic, political, and social factors are completely integrated. A village is a place where it's a production system, goods and services are produced. It is a place where power is exercised. It is a place where people have a social life. So this is the context in which is my presentation. It is an ancient community. It has some unique features. Since independence, the government of India have followed two complementary approaches. One is they have instituted a large number of development programs. And these development programs have been broadly of two types. One type is where they wanted to remove poverty and create employment. Except for the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, most of the government programs have failed. Neither has been poverty removed nor really employment generated. But one big success with the government of India have got is they had number of programs on crop productivity. So many of us in India were familiar with the expression green revolution. So India is today successful in having enough cereals, enough feed, enough milk. The only area in which we still have a shortage is oilseeds. So we have these two trends. One trend where the crop productivity programs have succeeded. These programs were targeted at rich farmers having irrigated land. And the other program where poverty has not really been removed. Is my voice clear? Dr. Payal, is my voice clear?
Sir, your voice is clear.
Okay, is it Keshav speaking?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, okay, fine. So in the last 40-50 years, what has happened is the economic divisions within the village has sharpened. The rich farmers have become richer. They have taken capital out of the villages and it has shifted to areas. Now, the other approach which the government did was institutionalizing Gram Panchayat structures in villages are constitutionally mandated. But again, the problem has been that except for 5 states in India, that is Karnataka, Maharashtra, Sikkim, Kerala, and West Bengal, in none of these states have the Gram Panchayat been empowered with funds, staff, and powers. These are the only 5 states where the Gram Panchayat has had, could achieve its objectives. The Gram Panchayat is supposed to provide civic services to the village community and undertake other development programs. So these are the only 5 states where the Gram Panchayat to an extent has succeeded. Now I am presenting 3 research studies. These research studies all have been published articles. The first was in the Indian Journal of Social Work around about 2006-2007, and I tried to identify vulnerable categories in a village. And this identification was based on data. Many from our college will be familiar with the village called Neri Mankar, which is off Amravati Road. So Neri Mankar and 2 Gond hamlets, Andira and Gondi, I stayed there for about 6 months, took a house and rent, and studied. So this village cluster had about 19 caste communities. These 3 villages had about 352 households. And I found 5 categories of vulnerabilities. About aged families, 41, single parent families, about 40, 51% of village people were illiterate, 31% were below poverty. Actually, in reality, it is much higher. And practically the entire village community was devoid of power because power was exercised by to landowning families. Now, if you want to have a program, if you want to take intervention measures, it is necessary to know the degree of vulnerability. So a combination of economic and family related factors centering on age, single parent, literacy, income will help us to assess the degree of vulnerability. Now here I have very briefly conceptualized social work intervention. Now, vulnerabilities emerging out of complex situations cannot be handled by a trained social worker. These are historical problems, and trained social worker has some limited resources. But what a trained social worker can certainly do is address some of the needs of vulnerable categories. So once we have a category of numbers, okay, these many families are vulnerable, and once we know the degree of vulnerability, then we can address some selective needs. And that is, I think, what is possible for social workers. My second research study was, I began with a World Bank finding. The World Bank said that in a rural area, if you want to get out of poverty, two things are necessary. One is the individual has to take an initiative, and the second is you must find a job outside agriculture. Now, it is not possible for everybody to take an initiative. So I decided to explore what helps the individual to take an initiative. How does he shift from the village to a factory? And what happens when they reach the factory? So many of us are familiar with the place called Bazar Gaon. And Bazar Gaon, there is a factory called Pigs Transmission. This factory is about 30 kilometers from Nagpur. And in this, there were about 450 youth workers. And this factory had a policy of employing only local youths. So I met the personal manager, I took their permission, I got the list of staff, and I interviewed 140 of these youth workers. Out of this 140, I selected 25 and went to the villages in which these youths lived and had a kind of a case study discussion with them. Now my profile, the quantitative data which was generated showed that majority of this youth were between the ages of 20 to 25 years. Majority had completed 10th standard examinations. Majority were not poor. Majority came from the landowning communities. And this was the broad profile. Now, how does one decide what is the criteria for success? I checked with this data and I found that roughly 36% of this youth have become permanent. Now, what the factory does is they don't make you permanent for almost 5 to 10 years. You all work as temporary, you work for shifts, and it goes on for many years till you meet the criteria of the factory. Now, what is the criteria of this Pigs Transmission factory? Now, the criteria is these boys must have completed 10th level of education. These boys must not indulge in any trade union behavior. These boys must not absent themselves from shift work. Now we must remember the shift in this factory was 8 a.m., 4 p.m., 12 midnight. When a boy joins his shift, he has to work for 8 hours continuously. And if by chance his replacement worker does not come, he has to work for another 8 hours. That is 16 hours he has to work continuously. If it doesn't work, he's marked as absenteeism. His chances of becoming permanent goes. Most of these boys have come through family contacts. Someone or other has sponsored. The family has gone to the local leaders and the local leader has sponsored the names. This factory management also, they do not pay the salary on time. So if the boy wants to continue to work, the family must feed the boy for at least about 3 to 4 years. So only when these 3-4 criteria, they come together, these boys become permanent. And that is about 36%. And most of these boys have spent about 5 to 8 years for getting permanent. Now in India, there's a debate whether poverty is a push factor or a pull factor. Push factor means, does poverty force a boy to leave his village and find a factory job? There's one school which says poverty acts as a push factor. There's an opposite school which says poverty does not push, poverty pulls back the youth. The boy is not able to leave the village because he's too poor to leave. Now, my data shows that as far as Nagpur is concerned, poverty is a pull factor and not a push factor. Because of poverty, most of these boys who are very poor, who don't have family support, who have not completed 10th level of education, cannot reach the factory, or if they reach the factory, they'll not never become permanent. They'll always remain a temporary worker. So if you keep the World Bank finding in mind, that individual initiative and finding a job outside agriculture is what removes you from poverty. Those who are poor in villages, in rural Nagpur will not get out of poverty because of their initiative. It's not enough. So that is the finding of this study of mine. Now I come to the third study. In 2015, the government of India had initiated a documentation project. This project was to study effective gram panchayats from less developed districts. In a majority of Indian villages, the gram panchayat is not very effective. As I mentioned earlier, except Maharashtra, Karnataka, Sikkim, West Bengal, and Kerala, the gram panchayat does not have funds. The gram panchayat does not have staff. The gram panchayat does not have powers. So they are not able to implement anything. Now, this mandate which came from the government of India said that study a gram panchayat in an area which is less developed. So I selected the state of Madhya Pradesh. In Madhya Pradesh, I selected the district of Dhar. Dhar is one of the most backward regions. Almost 50% of the population are Bhil tribals. And in this district, there is one exceptional village called Ahana. Ahana has done wonderful work. So I selected this village. I met the local collector. They gave me documents. I spoke to the Sarpanch. I spoke to the Gram Panchayat secretary. I got the records, and I spent roughly about a week staying in that village, spending the daytime in the Gram Panchayat, meeting the people and finding out what has Ahana done. Now, there were two research questions before me. One research question was, how do we measure effectiveness of Ahana Gram Panchayat? When we say Ahana Gram Panchayat has done good work, what is the measurement? So I took two aspects. One is, in what way has the work of Ahana improved the life of the Ahana people? This is first. And the second is, what is the organizational strength of the Ahana Gram Panchayat? So these questions I kept to measure effectiveness. And what is the broader process which led to Ahana Gram Panchayat becoming effective? Madhya Pradesh is not really known for effective Gram Panchayats. In Madhya Pradesh, Dhar is a backward district. Now, when I spoke to the village people, they said till 2005, their life in Ahana was miserable. There was no drinking water. They had to go all over the village hunting for drinking water. Only 15% of the village roads had tar. During monsoon, you could not use the roads. The households did not have toilets. Their Gram Panchayat was not functioning, and no bride was willing to marry a Ahana boy. That was the situation till 2005. Now, from 2005 onwards, Ahana started changing. What changes took place? Every household got access to piped water. 60% of the households have toilets. A network of all-weather cement concrete road connects Ahana. Sanitation, recreation park, cremation grounds have been built. All done by the Ahana Gram Panchayat. In addition, the most effective work which Ahana has done is creation of livelihood. They have created a site of 3 acres for 50 potters of the village. They have erected a shed and they made a potter's wheel. They have made 10 sheds for butchers. They have constructed 16 shops and given it on rent as income generation project. But the most remarkable work which Ahana has done is they created 170 assets using Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act funds. And they built a lot of wells. They afforested the land. They made farm culverts. They got pumps. So a large number of cultivators, including farmers from the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, benefited. Now, all this agricultural work helped in enhancing agricultural productivity in Ahana. The water table, which was at the depth of 25 meters, came up to 10 meters. That is, earlier you had to go, you have to dig till 25 meters till you get water. Now within 10 meters you get water. The land under irrigation has increased from 602 hectares to 710 hectares. Instead of cultivating a single crop, Ahana farmers are now harvesting 4 crops: cotton, chili, soya, and maize. 60 marginal farmers have given up agricultural labor work. And the Manrega program has expanded to such an extent that during the summer months, when there is no work available, Ahana is giving work to 700 people. And every day there is a wage disbursement of 1.5 lakh rupees. Each Ahana person is getting rupees 214 per day for 2 months when they have no work. Now, as I said a bit earlier, that I was looking at the broader process. How did Ahana achieve this? Now, the beginnings of Ahana's effective work is in 2005, when they had a remarkable leader by the name Sandeep Agarwal. Agarwal, when he started campaigning from the Gram Panchayat election, he told the people of Ahana that the moment he gets elected, he will solve their drinking water problem. There is a government scheme in which 3 lakh the government of Madhya Pradesh would give, and 1 lakh has to come as Jan Bhagidari, local contribution. So what Sandeep did was, he had a meeting of the rich families of Ahana and told each of them, you contribute 10,000, so we get 1 lakh. And he motivated these people. Each of them gave 10,000 rupees. 1 lakh was generated as Jan Bhagidari. This money was given to the government. The government gave the 4 lakhs and the water scheme took off. With this, the people of Ahana had a lot of faith in Sandeep. Now, Sandeep has some, apart from many other leadership initiatives, he also succeeded in enhancing the revenue of Ahana. There's a concept called own.
Hello.
Ajay sir, am I audible?
नेटवर्क प्रॉब्लम होगा सर की तरफ।
हाँ।
सर आपका आवाज आ रहा है लेकिन सर का आवाज गया।
Sorry for interruption. Maybe there is a connectivity problem. We will wait for 5 minutes.
Okay, sir.
Please kindly mute your mics, all the participants. Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Sir. Yes, sir.
There was some connectivity problem here. Can I continue?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Now, by 2015, Ahana had generated 3 times the revenue which they had generated in 2004-5. Now, the significance of this revenue generation is Ahana Gram Panchayat can take their own decisions. They don't depend on the government. So what Ahana did is they appointed 13 staff members paying his salary. Now, this salary ranges from roughly 1,500 to about, say, 5,500. Half of the Ahana generation revenue goes in paying salaries to these 13 staff members. But because of these 13 staff members, HANA is able to take up a lot of developmental work. So because of revenue generation, staff came, because staff came, activities increased. Now, when I conceptualize the effective work of HANA, I can see two elements which led to the success of HANA. The two elements are, one is the individual leader initiatives of Sandeep Agarwal, and second is state policy in the form of Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. This act brought funds, and Sandeep Agarwal and his team, they use these funds judicially to undertake a lot of developmental work. Through this developmental work, the life of the people improved. The Gram Panchayat got funds. Staff came, they built up a new building, they put up processors, they put up Xerox machines, they have done a whole range of activities. Now, these two factors tells us that even in a backward district, even in a district which is less developed, that it is possible to do work. So I use this as an example that developmental possibilities exist even if this backwardness, provided the state support is there and provided there is local initiative at the village level. So these are three studies, field-based studies, which I have published, which I am presenting here to of a project which our college ran between Dr. Prince, can you hear me?
Sir.
Dr. Payal, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
yes.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Only 2 more minutes, I then conclude.
Okay,
That our college had worked in rural development between 1990 and 1998. We had taken 11 villages off Amravati Road. And in these villages, we tried to address some of the needs of the people there. So there were 4 needs: preventive health, education, organization. This project, we ran services. So in a small way, some kind of intervention we undertook where our focus was on addressing needs. So these are some of the aspects of village communities in relation to both in Nagpur and Madhya Pradesh. And here I end my presentation, and I thank the college, the principal, and all my colleagues who have helped me in many ways. Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Prince?
Yeah. Thank
Sir,
you.
बोलिए.
We'll question answer last. Okay.
डॉक्टर
Thank
पायल,
you,
आपको
sir.
सुनाई दे रही है?
हाँ, sir.
हाँ, मेरा
Hello.
प्रेजेंटेशन खत्म हो गया.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Ajay Kumar, for enlightening us.
Yeah.
It seems everyone wants me to express appreciation for your inspiring presentation today, sir. Your years of research in concerned field, your depth of understanding towards rural development, your dimensions to present the subject in such an interesting way, produce one of the most memorable evening in our international webinar. Thank you once again, sir, for making a truly memorable evening. Now, I would like to introduce another speaker, Dr. Swati Dharmadikari, Associate Professor at Tirupati College of Social Work, Nagpur. Dr. Swati Dharmadikari has more than 30 years teaching experiences. She has functioned as a resource person in several training programs and offered consultancy to more than 30 government organizations and non-government organizations, including Bharosa Cell and Initiative of Government of Maharashtra. Also running free tele-counseling helpline for 2005 and has been running own counseling center for more than 30 years. Swati Dharmadikari has involved in many research at institutional level, and at more than 130 students, she has guided for dissertations at master levels. Dr. Dharmadhikari has author of many textbooks and editors of 2 books on poetry, which an innovative experiment on Facebook. She also having recorded 3 audiobooks.
Maximize करो इसको.
Dr. Swati Dharmadhikari has published more than 250 articles and cover story and columns in various dailies. Dr. Dharmadhikari is nominated at Mumbai High Court Committee on Sri Shraddhanand Anathalaya, Nagpur by Mumbai High Court. Also, she was a member of Junior Justice Court, Nagpur District. Her specialized area in psychology, counseling, social work in healthcare system, psychiatric social work. Today, as we know, community-based healthcare is an essential part of primary care at all the times in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. The listening capacity of trusted community members for social engagement and delivering care where it is needed is ever more critical. In this affection, today, Dr. Swati Dharmadhikari will be sharing with us her proficient stance on public health and role of local communities in COVID-19 crisis. Now, I welcome Dr. Swati Dharmadhikari to bring her view on a set area. Dr. Swati Dharmadhikari, it's over to you. Hello.
Hello, am I audible?
Ma'am, yeah, ma'am.
And is the slide seen?
Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. And at the very onset, I would like to congratulate Matru Seva Sangh and other institutes which are joined by them in organizing this international webinar. My presentation, as you know, is based on 3 concepts. First, I will be discussing about the outline of the health, and then I will be also talking about public health concept, and then case studies and activities in Corona pandemic. Health, as we know, has been defined by WHO in a peculiar way, and it speaks like this. The concept of health takes into account not only physical and psychological and social well-being. As such, according to WHO, it is not merely the absence of disease or infirmity, and more recently, it is understood as a resource for everyday living. I think with this notion, we proceed further. And what are the goals of modern medicine? If we consider the goals are spelled out here, it is not mere treatment of sickness. This is the first and most important goal of our medicine. It is not only treatment. It also focuses on prevention of diseases, promotion of health, and improvement of quality of life of individuals, groups, and communities. So it is very clear that we have moved further from clinical approach to community-based medicine. Then when we speak about, just a minute, there is lots of other noise coming in between. So I request all the participants to mute their audios. Can I proceed? Hello, thank you. There is basically contrast in our medical, we can say, field, that there is lots of different approaches undertaken by developed countries, and developing countries are at the receiver end. There is again a disparity between rural and urban community. We also see that rich and poor have different levels of health, and organization has played major role in wiping out and reducing such inequalities by offering common agenda, by helping in attaining Millennium Development Goals. Particularly when we talk about rural, urban, and tribal communities, we can see that they are at different levels of health paradigm. Sustainable goals or sustainable development goals, if we focus on, we can say that to address current and future challenges in addressing health issues, the United Nations have developed the Sustainable Development Goals, building of the Millennium Development Goals of 2000 to be completed by 2030. This we know. These goals in their entirety encompass the entire spectrum of development across nations. However, the goals, particularly 1 to 6, directly address health disparities, primarily in developing countries. These 6 goals address key issues in global public health, particularly poverty, hunger, and food security, then health education, gender equality, and women's empowerment, and water and sanitation. I think these are the 6 goals which are very, very important when we try to understand the public health scenario. Public health officials thus can use these goals to set their own agendas and plan for smaller scale initiatives for their organizations. These goals hope to lessen the burden of diseases and inequality faced by developing countries and lead to a healthier future. This is the understanding with which we move further. And let us now talk about the public health as such, as a concept. Public health, this concept has seen paradigm shifts, or there is shift in their focus in the interventions, particularly in initial period. It was called disease control issues. It lasted from 1880 to 1920. Then we shifted the focus to health promotional aspects. The health promotion became the focus of public health issues. And it lasted from 1920 to 1960. Social engineering phase was there from 1960 to 1980, we can say. And social and behavioral aspects became more important. We have seen that addiction and other kinds of problems which had a link with the lifestyle issues, they were focused more in this period. And now, when we talk about health for all, this is a period we can say, particularly from 1981 to 2000. This particular focus tries to identify and eliminate the gaps, and all can have socially and economically productive life. This is the goal of this particular period interventions undertaken in public health sector. At present, we can say that we are focusing on this approach. If we try to understand the medical field, we can see some change in it. Initially, the medical aspect was there. It shifted, it moved from organism to organ. Like, it was initially the focus was the person, whole person, then it shifted to organ, and then it shifted to cells, and now we see that molecular properties have attained focus. And we see more and more specialists coming forward, and medical field is being flooded with lots of technicalities and specialities. But this approach even today is not successful approach, as we can see, as it has failed in controlling death rates and has elitist orientation, moving in wrong direction, because it is focusing on it is not focusing on health promotion, and it is focusing more on treatment. Even now we can see two types of medicines even now, one for poor and one for rich. And what is needed, therefore, is intervention by charitable institutions, because medicine became very costly affair. So there is an understanding which has developed there that there must be socialization of medicine. Medicine, it was very costly, and the social dimension was totally missing. Contemporary approach, if we can see, is that medicine is no longer a solely and art or science of diagnosis and treatment of disease. It is not just giving treatment to patients. It is not just doing some surgical operations. It is also the science of prevention and disease, prevention of disease and promotion of health. So contemporary approach focuses on promotion of health also. It is therefore a multi-dimensional concept. Definition of public health. Definition of public health, if we focus that public health has been seen as a science which is also focusing on prevention of diseases. It also focuses on prolonging life and promote improving quality of life through organized efforts and informed choices of society, various organizations, public and private partnerships, and communities and individuals. So there is, we can say, a comprehensive concept of public health where we try to seek participation of people also. Analyzing the determinants of health of a population and threats it faces is the basis of public health. I think in Corona context, we can see that there are many dimensions which are to be explored in the context of populations which are affected by it. The public can be as small as handful of people, a small group of people, or as large as a village or an entire city. In case of pandemic, it can be the whole continent, or it can be world, total world, we can say, which has been affected. When we focus on community participation and particularly health by the people, this is a motto which we have taken, that mere socialization of medicine is not going to be adequate. For better utilization of health services, community participation is must, or rather we can say imperative. It refers to the process by which individuals and families assume a responsibility for their own health and welfare and for those of the community. Means even in the corona context, we can see that the corona, one has to take measures so as to protect oneself, also take measures so as to protect the whole community or whole, we can say, at social levels, various different dimensions are to be considered. uh, Develop, it also mean that we are supposed to develop certain measures at community level, and we are also required to develop the capacity to contribute to their and community development aspect. Like while facing these health issues when at community level, it also refers to the development aspect of the community by way of participation in planning, organizing, and managing their own health services. We achieve aspired status, that is health by people. So people should be participating in decision making, in planning various interventions, and also organizing and managing the whole interventions. When we talk about community and health, we understand that health is a holistic concept and needs coordinated efforts at community level. So, at ground realities, people and government and other functionaries need to work hand in hand. Now, there are many more health workers, such as community health workers, ASHA workers, multipurpose workers, practitioners of indigenous medicines are there, also social workers, all are part of health team. So when we talk about community, it also refers to a team approach where all these people would be involved. And what are the roles we have? We have role of educators, then we have case finders, we are case finders, then preventers, we are required to prevent the spread of disease, then we work as counselors, and we also work as agent of social change. Preventive health, when we talk about preventive health as such, then healthcare consists of measures taken for disease prevention. Disease and disabilities are affected by environmental factors. We should not forget this, that there are n number of factors which are affecting our health, and these include the environmental factors, genetic predisposition, disease agents, then lifestyle choices, on and also the dynamic processes which begin before the individual realizes they are affected. So just like what has happened in corona, that before understanding, before realizing that it is affecting us, we are infected, we may be positive, corona positive. So this is the fact, and therefore we are supposed to work in a proactive way. Disease prevention relies on anticipatory actions that can be categorized as primary, secondary, and tertiary prevention. Primary intervention is stopping the spread, it should not spread further. Then secondary intervention is one who is affected, one who is infected, the care and protection, and there has to be, we can say, prompt action so that the person is admitted and is having access to help. And at tertiary level, we reduce the complications of, occurring due to the infection. This could be the this could be the interpretation in the context of COVID. Then when we talk about responsibilities regarding health, who are responsible and what are the levels of these responsibilities? As we understand, it is the individual responsibility also, that the self care has to be taken, and therefore there are a number of measures which are suggested so that we can protect ourselves. Then community responsibility is there, caring for the community. It involves many actions at community level. For example, lockdown is there. Then not giving permissions to commute from one city to another city, this is also there. We cannot say that these are the standard operating procedures, SOPs, because at community level we see that there are various different dimensions which are playing role. For example, the characteristics of urban community are different, characteristics of rural and tribal communities would be different. So what procedures are to be undertaken depends on the nature of the community. Then at state level responsibility, as we know, there are constitutional provisions, and accordingly the government is taking measures to handle the situations. And at international levels, as we know, the cooperation and coordination among nations and government is required. And we have seen this happening in corona scene. When we particularly talk about community responsibilities, then we are supposed to understand that community is not target but a resource. Till now, community has been looked at as a receiver, as a target, as a, we can say, risk. Some people who, a bunch of people who are at risk, but the approach requires some shift in our understanding that it is a resource as well. For example, it can provide facilities, it can provide manpower, logistic support could be given by community people, and then funding, which is very important, also is possible through community mobilization. Community can participate, can take responsibility, can be involved in planning and management and evaluation of certain situations. We have seen that in corona scene, villages have closed down their entrances. They are not allowing other visitors to enter the village. This is how the community, that is gram panchayat and others, are taking proactive role, and they are planning, they are managing their health status. Utilization of services for prevention and promotion, this is very important. Although government makes it available at corona, we can say quarantine centers are available, or people could be shifted to certain hospitals for taking treatment. People are not coming forward and they are not taking help of government services. This is serious issue in some cases. So this is how a community can get involved in the interventions and can be part of the whole public health movement. People's health should be concern of people themselves. This is very important. War against any disease or for health cannot be fought by physicians alone. Doctors alone cannot do anything. It is people's war in which entire population must be mobilized permanently, and this is what it requires. Talking about the corona status, we know that in the context of COVID-19 public health needs, what are the public health needs? First is tracing the patients. We need to find out who and where is the patient, then testing them, whether really our suspicion is right or wrong, that has to be done by testing, then treating positive patients. So this is very important that we focus on these three, that is tracing, testing and treating. Also important is prevention. Prevention of spread of corona or COVID virus. Information has to be disseminated. We know IEC approach, and information is to be disseminated. Education is to be done. Medical education means that whatever misconceptions the persons are having, it should be handled. For example, regarding COVID, there was misconception that non-veg, eating non-veg is catering to spread of that particular virus, but that was baseless. And we know that there are many people who are non-vegetarian, and still they do not get infected by this virus. So this kind of misconceptions, they are to be cleared, and this is a kind of intervention we can take up. Then counseling is very much important, and an intervention focused on corona status, that is COVID positive patients. It could be the person could be suspect, the person could be quarantined just for the sake of safety of the person, we can say, or the person can be treated, and then post COVID counseling also could be there. So there are many interventions possible. Then promotion of positive health is most important aspect. Psychological impact to be handled. We know that many patients during the quarantine period, they are going in depression and they are distressed. So handling those concerns also is important. Now let me talk about some case studies. Few case studies are there where we can see the intervention taken up. First intervention I see, which is very much appreciated in the world, is Dharavi intervention, we can say. There was special attention given to this by WHO. WHO chief in his virtual press conferences has quoted, and he's been quoted by India Today, like Italy, Spain, South Korea, and even in Dharavi, a densely packed area in megacity Mumbai, a strong focus on community engagement and the basis of testing, tracing, isolation, and treating all those sick treating all those sick is key to breaking the chain of COVID-19 and consistently reported slow growth rate of COVID-19. I think this is very creditable. When we first came to know that Dharavi, there are a few patients and it's going to be something very dangerous. That time it was expected that because of the density, because of the population density, because of the typical demographic features of Dharavi, we expected growth of COVID infection, spread of COVID infection as a very fast and devastating. But because of the active civic bodies and BMC, that is Bombay Municipal Corporation's initiative, and to some extent we can say RSS, that is Rashtriya Seva Sangh, they also intervened, and their work as collaborators and we can say complementary to each other, and therefore we can see that Dharavi is having a very low rate of cases. I mean, the progression is very low, not as expected. This is first case I can mention, is where the local or community intervention has been effective with the COVID infection. Then I have another case study here. It is Ujjwala Bagwade. She is from Thane, and she has floated an NGO, not we can say a movement, We Together, and she has developed food grain bank, and it started in 2015. Now they have about 450 volunteers associated with the organization, and there are 143 housewives who are associated with them. They have helped 19 institutes by offering 50,000 kg food grain. And particularly in Corona pandemic, till now, 1,500 families received help. So this is a kind of case study where community initiatives can be of help, and health can be managed by the help of these people. When we talk about this period, we see that there is domestic violence, number of cases are increasing. Then regarding child abuse also, we see that many a times the cases are diagnosed for the first time by the family because of the period of lockdown. So in such cases, there are interventions required, there are helplines required, and I can quote one such help initiated by State Psychologist Association, who started helpline. And these helplines are for psychological distress and depression and even other issues of mental health. This is an initiative where we can see that in the face of depression, the local such initiatives become handy and they help people. So we can see that lot many work can be done by communities. Now let me bring your attention to one more crucial aspect of health, and particularly when we talk about the impact of COVID. Because of COVID, general population is having anxiety and they are showing some distress and depression. But when we talk about persons with special needs, what happens? Are they cared for? What is the scenario in this regard. So there is one case study, or we can say, I can say that there was an article which I came across. This was written by Ambika Takalkar, who runs Arambha, that is autistic Center for Autistic persons. She wrote in her article, and she has quoted certain pathetic conditions of persons with special needs, and she has referred to global scenario. She has mentioned that there was a death of a spastic child because the child was not taken care of by other people. He was stranded. He was only a child who was left at home because others were corona positive, COVID positive, and they were shifted to centers which were meant for them. So the child died because the child did not get any support. There was suicide of single mother who was taking care of special child, and this was in Italy, I think. Then murder of such child by father. This also has happened during COVID-19. This is shocking. Ambika is guiding such persons and offering community help wherever possible. For example, she had helped one girl who was not positive among the whole family. Other three persons were COVID positive, and they were shifted to the hospitals. And in Aurangabad, this girl was given support by others. She was autistic girl, and she could not spell out her needs, and therefore the institute took care of this girl. So what is the learning? Learning is that in such conditions of pandemic, special attention is must to persons with disabilities also. Interventions by NGO is commendable. Community plays major role as a support system, and therefore such interventions could be undertaken. There are few more interventions which I would like to mention, that many faculty members of various social work colleges in Nagpur helped collector office by offering counseling to thousands of workers who were held up in various centers which were shelters for workers. They were not allowed to go back to their houses, so they were held up here. There was no work to be done. So those we can say laborers, they were in a depression kind of status, where they were helped by doing counseling, and they were encouraged. And it was observed that the government or the NGOs, they are helping them, they are providing something, but the habits of the people who are there, that those habits became we can say those became the hurdles in their happiness, because we try to rely on our habits and eating habits, may it be eating habit, may it be other habits. So if those habits are not allowed, or if they are not getting appropriate responses for going further, then there will be a problem with the person, and the person will certainly find some kind of distressing situations. So those were helped by interventions. Then freeze distribution of medicine is seen. Then masks are distributed, PPE kits are given, sanitizers, food packets to needy, making schools available to the migrants for shelter. Then virtual awareness campaigns by college students, by then interventions by Rotary and other social groups are also seen. So many kind of interventions are undertaken. Even the funding part, Masway, we have a Maharashtra Association of Social Work Educators, which had taken initiative and helped by donating huge amount to CM Relief Fund. So this is how we can say that lot many interventions are there, and there is community response to such pandemic issues. Then public health, as we know, is a major concern. Participation of one and all in all the preventive and promotive ventures is must. Cholera, I would like to draw your attention here that cholera was known as father of public health. It was the cholera pandemic, we can say, which triggered the movement for public health. And now let us work together to convert COVID-19 into an opportunity to refocus on our roles in such pandemics. Social work, by its very interdisciplinary nature, can offer insight in such situation, as we are social auditors. Studies and researches to study impact of COVID-19 on NGOs and various institutions like education, economy is to be undertaken, and that is imperative. For lessons learned today could be guiding path or guiding light for the coming generations. And this is how we can undertake certain interventions, and the threats could be changed or transformed into opportunities. At last, I would just want to wish that you all be safe, take care of yourself, and I thank the organizers for the opportunity they have given to me. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It's very beautiful presentation, ma'am. We appreciate. So, may I audible?
Yeah, yeah.
Ma'am,
Yes.
we appreciate the remarks given by you in the
Thank you.
pandemic crisis during COVID-19. It includes practical recommendations for decision makers to help keep communities and health workers safe, to sustain essential service at the community level, and to ensure an effective response to COVID-19. Using this comprehensive and coordinated approach will help countries to strengthen the resilience of community-based health service throughout the pandemic into early recovery and beyond. I wish that more people would try to see all sides of the issues that's come up. Thank you very much, ma'am. Here and now, I would like to proceed with our next speaker, Dr. Keshav Walke. Dr. Keshav Walke is known for his work in the area of humanitarian aid. Dr. Walke completed his MSW with two specializations, namely criminology and correctional administration and medical and psychiatric social work. He was awarded PhD degree by the Rashtrasanta Tukadoji Maharaj Nagpur University in the Faculty of Social Science. At present, Dr. Walke is an associate professor, NAC coordinator, course coordinator of 6-month short-term certificate. Similarly, faculty in charge in Lifeline in a field action project for promoting organ donation at Matru Seva Sangh Institute of Social Work, Nagpur. Also, Dr. Walke is a director of National Service Scheme of Rashtrasanta Tukadoji Maharaj Nagpur University. He is visiting faculty for research methodology in social science and national level master trainer with Rajiv Gandhi National Institute of Youth Development, and at a member of various board of institution and university level. He has earlier served as an honorary director of Nagpur Childline Nodal Organization, principal at Aniket College of Social Work, Vadam, course coordinator, refresher course in social work at UGC assistant, RTM Nagpur University, member of Nagpur district level task force for proper implementation of Child Labor Act 1986. He was faculty in charge of Department of Vocational Education at Matru Seva Sangh Institute of Social Work. Also, conference coordinator of MASWE International Conference at Bali, Indonesia. NSS district coordinator at RTM Nagpur University. Conference coordinator, DATWN International Conference at Colombo, Sri Lanka, member of nomination committee, and so on. He is associated with various professional and voluntary organizations and state, national, and international level. Dr. Walke was presented 25 research papers in national and international seminar conferences, 12 papers in conferences outside India. He has published 13 research papers in referred journal, including 3 in international journal. Dr. Walke also completed his UGC minor research project, completed NIRE-sponsored socio-economic study of Roghat area in Bastar district, Chhattisgarh, as an principal investigator. He completed UNICEF-sponsored research project on assessment of juvenile justice system in Jharkhand state. Functioned as an associate investigator in Government of Maharashtra-sponsored socio-economic study of Gosikut, PAFS, and so on. Dr. Walke was awarded by district level teacher award 2013 by Sri Gajanan Maharaj Multipurpose Welfare Society. Also, he was awarded Rashtrasanta Tukadoji Maharaj Nagpur University level Best NSS Program Officer 2013-14. Also, Best Teacher Award in 2015-16 and awarded by Maharashtra State National Services Scheme Best Program Officer awarded for 2015-16. His other area of interest is child protection, displacement of tribal people and their rehabilitation, rural youth and their role in community development, social science research, life skill development, and career counseling. From this time, you, our young and intelligent speaker for today's webinar, is Dr. Walke, with great pride and honor, the man of the hour who chose to be speaker for today's sensitive topic will be urban-rural community during COVID-19 national service in perspective. Now, I welcome to Dr. Walke for getting his practice site on NSS perspective. Dr. Walke, is over to you.
Thank you, Payal. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
And my screen is visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Honorable Secretary of Matru Seva Sangh, Dr. Lata Deshmukh, Principal Dr. Niswade, Professor Efrat Has, Professor Meni from Israel, my gurus, two gurus are there, Dr. Ajit Kumar. He was my colleague, but I have learned many things from him. Dr. Swati Dharmadhikari, she was my teacher during my master's in social work. And organizing committee of this webinar. My presentation, it is totally based on my personal experience while working with Corona. Particularly when I was working with Corona affected people through NSS activities. And I'm going to present that the contents are there. First, I will be presenting my observation during COVID-19. Then NSS, what is NSS? Little bit, 2-3 minutes I will speak on NSS and its role. Then our NSS response during COVID-19, and then I will talk about challenges faced and what I have learned from this, my participation in COVID-19. Basically, I have divided these communities into 4 categories: urban communities, rural communities, tribal or indigenous communities, and communities affected with wildlife. Spelling mistake is there. Wildlife projects. These are different kind of communities with whom I was associated during this COVID-19. First, when we talk about urban communities, both things were there. People in urban communities like Nagpur city or Mumbai or Pune in Maharashtra, when we talk, they were infected also and affected also, both. So when we talk about local people in urban cities or Nagpur, main impact was on employment, their livelihood options, and if they are from business or like that, they had lost their business. When you talk about student community, particularly in urban area, because of lockdown, those who were from outside city, they were told to go back. Around 70% of the students, they went back. And because of this COVID, they were in dilemma or confused state of mind, whether they have to write the exam or there will be no exam like that. Now also this situation is there. Because of state government, they are saying there will be no exam, and the UGC notification, they are asking for the exam like that, it is happening. Then next category, it is migrated workers. Those who were in Nagpur city or staying in Nagpur city, mainly they were daily wages workers, and whatever they were saving, they were sending some amount they were spending on their own, and some amount which they were able to save, they were sending it to their family members and relatives in the villages. But because of COVID, they were not able to send it. And in city, they were engaged in hotel work, cleaning work, construction work, and they were getting difficulty in getting ration during COVID because of non-availability of the ration cards. And some of them got ration card, but not, they were ration, but they were not getting other essential goods or materials, we can say. They received food packets from voluntary organizations, local administration. There was increase in problems due to loss of employment, and emotional and stress related problems were also there, and it was faced by the urban communities. Then rural communities, we talk, local farmers, those who were from the villages only, there was less impact as they were able to visit their farms and they were able to cultivate or take the crops. That's why they were not that much impacted. Landless farm laborers, they were affected because they were not having employment there. And those who were migrated to cities and towns for employment, presently, they were not able to stay in cities. And when they will come back to the cities, there was no employment guarantee. And even they reached to the villages, they were supposed to quarantine for 14 days. And there was a fear also whether they will be accepted in the villages or their relatives or their family members naturally. And that was the big issue when they were going back. And in many villages, it has happened also. They were not accepted easily, and they were quarantined in the schools at the corner of the villages. And then employment related issues were there, and because they were in the city, and because of no employment in the villages also, they were in the dilemmas and they were having a problems. When we talk about tribal and indigenous communities, they were not corona infected, but they were more affected. Particularly this period from March to June, this is the period when they are engaged in collecting minor forest producers, and they manage their whole year economy. They earn the amount during this particularly 4 period, that tendu leaf collection, and then particularly mawa flower collection, and all these things they collect. And because of this corona, even they have collected mawa flowers and tendu leaves, there was a problem due to lockdown. Contractors were not able to purchase their collected minor forest producers, and as they were not able to go in a group because of lockdown, it was not allowed. There were incidences of wild animal attacks during the collection of minor forest producers. And as per the government data and studies, it is estimated that every year tribal people and forest dwellers, they collect around 200 lakh, 2 lakh crore worth of non-timber forest producers from the country's forest. And this amount they use for whole year. And when we talk about the communities affected with wildlife projects, there were more and more affected and not infected. The particular tribal people and these people affected with wildlife, corona, they were not infected, but they were affected because of this. We can divide these people affected with wildlife projects into core zone and buffer zone. Into core zone, there was a 100% loss of employment. There was no access to government services due to the under displacement status. And because of that, there was a discrimination also. Nearby villages, they got the rations, but the people, those who were there in the core area, they were not able to get the rations from particularly the government also and forest department also. I had visited one of the villages. I will tell in detail about that village later on. Then buffer zone, there was also 100% loss. There was but here there was a help from revenue department, people's representative, and forest department also. So even there was a lockdown, even and they got the ration and everything, but there was a big question of unemployment. And during this period, there was a issue of unemployment. But next also, because this particularly tiger reserve, they will be closed because of rainy season till September. Until that, there will be no employment for the people, those who are surviving on this particularly tiger reserves, and there will be a big question of survival for them. What I found here, there was a lack of information about COVID 19, and lack of access to health facilities and testing kits at the remote areas. There was a food insecurity and employment, poor access to tribals and other traditional dwellers to services, and loss of livelihood from manufactured produces. And there was a fear of exploitation as there was no source of income. They were visiting, or they are visiting the money lenders, and they are taking loan from them, and there is a chance of getting exploited from them. This was about my observations during this work, and I will just brief about NSS, what I'm doing, working, and what it is. It is the largest network of youth in the country, and even in the whole world. Started in 1969 with 40,000 volunteers. And this year, 1920, we are celebrating Golden Jubilee. And at present, there are more than 4 million volunteers involved in this NSS network. There are more than 50,000 teachers, particularly we call them program officers, from 40,000 colleges in all over India. When we talk about our university, there are about 26,800 volunteers from 244 colleges, and 355 program officers are involved. And my work was to coordinate these 26,800 volunteers and 355 program officers from the 4 districts under the jurisdiction of university. Main aim of this NSS is to provide an opportunity to college student youths for their personality development through community services. So we provide opportunities to all the youth to get engaged in the community services, and by experience they learn and develop their personalities. And during this COVID-19, more than 70% of the volunteers all over India, they were engaged in different kind of activities. I will describe those activities later on. And not the present volunteers, those who were ex-volunteers, they were also involved in different kind of activities, particularly corona prevention and mitigation. And more than 1 million volunteers all over India, they were engaged in different kind of activities. This is the structure. It is a centrally sponsored scheme, runs under Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports. Then there is a directorate at national level. Then there are regional directorates. There are about 14 regional directorates at regional levels, particularly. It is a combination of for 2 or 3 states. And then state NSS officer at state level. At university level, there is a program coordinator, or as per Maharashtra new JR, new law, it is director post, which I am holding now at present. Then at college level, there are program officers, and then there are volunteers. And like such, decentralization of power is there, and that's why we can work very easily, and we are having a good network of all these people all together, and everyone is interacting and helping each other. These are major programs. Generally, we are having regular activities and camps, special camps. So these are the major activities. A national integration camp, we organize adventure camp, Republic Day parade, national youth festivals. And in Maharashtra, there are 3 special programs which we don't find in the other states. Ahwan, it's a disaster management training program. Every year, about 30 volunteers from each district, around 1,200 to 1,300 volunteers from different districts of Maharashtra. They get training for 10 days from NDRA people. And these 30 people are attached to the district disaster management cell, and they are attached to this cell. And whenever there is any disaster during this COVID also, these trained volunteers, they were helping the district administration in all over Maharashtra. Prerna camp is the leadership development camp. This year it is the history in NSS. First time we are organizing this online Prerna camp, and it is going on at present also from 11 to 15th of July. And it is only for 200 volunteers from all over Maharashtra. But this year we thought we should give opportunity to all the volunteers, those who are interested in joining. And I'm happy to share here, 200 volunteers, they are on Zoom, but more than 1 lakh volunteers, they are attending this online Prerna leadership camp on YouTube. And another activity is there. Utkarsh. It is an inter-university socio-cultural competition. And here also, our students get opportunity to show their cultural talents. And our response to COVID-19, there were two, we have responded online also and offline also. Online, we were able to reach more than 0.6 million people through social media, that were through messages, posters, and videos. And most of the volunteers, they were engaged in this program. We were able to help all volunteers. They have downloaded Arogya Setu app and help other people also to download Arogya Setu app. And around more than 1 lakh people have been helped by the NSS volunteers in downloading this Arogya Setu app. Particularly, I'm talking about my university. I'm not talking about all over India here. Then we were able to give online training on mask making. And I'm happy to share here, more than 1.5 lakh masks have been made by the volunteers and their family members and distributed among the needy people. Then we were able to organize online webinar on stigma and discrimination. Because of Corona, our COVID warriors, Corona warriors, they are discriminated and stigmatized. And to create awareness among the people, we were able to organize. I had led that particular webinar, and 5 universities altogether, 5 vice chancellors were present there, and it was in collaboration with state government and UNICEF, and more than 900 people they were able to attend it, and we were able to reach what is stigma and discrimination and how to minimize this stigma and discrimination. We were able to reach many people. Then offline, we were able to work, different work we were able to do. More than 2,000 our volunteers, they were working as now also some of them are working as a police mitra, and they were appointed as a special police officer in the, different places. Then our volunteers, around 4,000 volunteers, they were working as a Arogya Doot with Asha workers. Around 1,900 volunteers, they donated blood during this pandemic also. They were engaged in medicine distribution. Volunteers, some of volunteers, they worked at quarantine centers. As I said, mask making and distribution, they were engaged. And many students, they were engaged in sanitizer making and distribution, sanitizer making and distribution. And most of them, they were engaged and they were supporting local administration, particularly in Nagpur, we were in support with NMC. And at Taluka level, they were supporting Panchayat Samiti and Taluka people. And at village level, they were supporting Gram Panchayat. Around more than 25 villages, totally they have been sanitized by our volunteers. And our volunteers were engaged in food grain distribution, grocery distribution, and cooked food distribution. Around 40,000 families got benefited with ration kits and food grain kits. And more than 1.3 lakh people, we were able to provide cooked food. That was provided by the colleges. And at university level, we had a NSS community kitchen in collaboration with NMC. It was one of the unique example in partnership with local administration and the university. RTM Nagpur University, it was the pioneer one, and it was replicated by other universities. It was continued for 40 days. Every day we were distributing around 1,300 food packets, 550 in the morning and 750 in the evening. And it was continued for 40 days. And we were able to reach around 50,000 people with the help of corporation. Corporation was providing us raw material like rice, atta, oil, and particularly dal. And other material was sponsored by Nagpur University. And our 15 volunteers, they were regularly working there for 40 days, and we were able to do that work. And I'm happy to share here, this was one of the success story, and it is acknowledged by the Prime Minister office also. And as I was saying, villages or community with affected with wildlife. There is one village hardly 65 kilometers from here, and I'm associated with that village. I came to know that it is under the displacement process, and I came to know that nothing was provided by the government, particularly revenue department also and forest department also. Whereas nearby villages they got all these things from the people representative and government also. But this village hardly there are 23 families now, and there were 35, but 12 have been already relocated. And these 23 families were with no access and nothing, and they are not having internet and nothing, because even it is a 65 kilometers from here. Now also there is no electricity. Since last 75 years that village is established there, but till now there is no electricity, and because of that they were not having any access with the outside world. And when I came to know regarding that, I'm happy to share one of our ex-volunteer, NSS volunteer, our ex-student of Matru Seva Sangh only, Ashish Sharma. He was ready to help, and with the help of his 10th standard batchmate, he was able to mobilize around 36,000. And with the help of my classmates, we were able to mobilize around 50,000 rupees. And we could able to distribute 23 kits in that village. Nearly about, each one was of nearly about 50 kg. It was consisting of 50 kg rice, atta 10 kg, even onion and potato, biscuit packets, sugar, oil packets, and everything. It was costing about 2,100, and we were able to reach these people. This was our response, and some challenges which we faced. Sometimes there was no cooperation from the general people. And sometimes, as I was saying, we were able to engage in distribution of the food packets. I was experiencing sometimes duplication and triplication of services. Places like Birdi, each person was getting more than 5 packets of food packets. First, they were testing it, and the tested one they were having, and other packets they were throwing it away. And that's why then we thought, instead of going individually, we should hand over it to the corporation people, because they were having a list and data about needy people, and through them we were distributing, so we could avoid the duplication, triplication of such kind of services. There was a lack of ICT skills. Many people, they were not able to go online and get aware through online media or messages and videos and like that. And then there were lack of resources, ration, powers, network, healthcare, transportation, etc. These were some challenges we were facing. And what I have learned, networking and collaborative teamwork, which can, through this, we can reach to many people. Then I was able to apply some social work methods and techniques like community organization, social action, sometimes counseling, networking, and advocacy. And I found here new fields for social work practice, displacement, and particularly people, especially wildlife affected, migrant workers. This can be different fields or new fields for social workers. And what I find here, when we help them, we need skill-based training. One program is there now, Minister of Tribal Affairs and particularly Tribal Research Institute, in collaboration with Facebook, they have launched GOAL, a mentee and mentor program. GOAL means going online as leaders, and about 5,000 tribal youth, they are going to get training in next 7 months, and 2 month intensive they will be getting. So like such programs, skill-based program or training should be given to the social workers also. And I find there is a competition among social workers and people from other social science fields like psychology and sociology. They are also working similarly, and there can be a competition with the social workers. And this was from my side. Thank you very much. And thank you to the organizers for providing me this opportunity. This is the photograph from that village. After distribution, I was just discussing different issues with the villagers. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your stimulating speech on urban-rural communities during COVID-19 in the perspective of National Service Scheme. It was very interesting to hear about your experience for dealing the situation during COVID-19. Your talk was particularly appropriate at a time when people are facing COVID-19. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. Now the session is open for question and answer. I hand over to the session Dr. Prince Kumar Agashe and Dr. Mane. Sir, it's over to you.
Thank you, Payal ma'am. First of all, thank you. I'm in thanking to all the resource persons and congratulate you all. You all are the very intellectual and high profile academician. You have presented nicely. So I think there are no questions. And there is only one question for Dr. Walke sir. That is, the students from the rural area, how they face to online learning as not having to all the electronic device or net problem. So I request to Dr. Walke sir.
That is a big question. Forget about the net connection. How they will charge their mobiles and that thing, that is difficulty. And even in Nagpur, even now I'm here and I'm getting message, your internet connection is unstable. In Nagpur city, I'm having this problem. So we can think of the people, those who are in the remote areas and in rural communities. It is very difficult for them. Even online classes and other things, when we talk about it, it is very difficult because the data which is required. Here we are, if we are here in this webinar and about, I think I have spent more than 1.5 GB during this session only. And the packages which are available, can you imagine the villagers, they are having limited resources, already there is no employment and all these things. They will be able to continue their education online. There is a big question. I don't know how it is going to be there. Here, my daughter, I'm experiencing, she's having online classes. And for 3 hours, how she sit before the screen and other problems are going to create. So more than 70% of the rural students, they will not be able to join this particularly online classes. During COVID-19, I was engaging some classes for research supervision. There were 22 students under my supervision, but hardly 8 or 7 they were able to join the online sessions. That was my experience in city. So we can think of the rural students. So this is what I think. It is very difficult to go online or have online classes for the rural community, rural students also, and even urban students also.
Thank you, sir. This is the identity of the social worker. You then, you are answering in that also, you mentioned the case of your daughters. So thank you very much. Now, I think there are no any questions. So we will move towards the vote of thanks. Before that, there is a small announcement. I would like to request Dr. Jyoti Niswade ma'am to please announce.
Thank you, Dr. Prince. This was a wonderful webinar, and I think its success lies in the efforts of all those who are in front and behind the scene. Before announcing the next webinar's detail, I personally thank all the presenters over here. First of all, I thank Dr. Lata Deshmukh, Honorable Secretary of Matru Seva Sangh, that she's been here with me in all the seminars and giving either keynote address or addressing the webinar in the beginning. So I thank Dr. Lata Deshmukh Madam for sparing all the time with us for making this webinar in her presence, the valuable one. I also thank all the presenters over here. As I spoke to Dr. Mani and he agreed on, joining for the webinar, he was very happy. And along with Mani, I am also happy that Ifrat has joined us. So this is the first time the Department of Social Work, Ben Gurion University of Negev, Israel, has joined with us in collaboration. So a special thank to Professor Ifrat Has. I personally thank Dr. Ajit Kumar, as I have just made a call to him and he said, yes, I will be presenting his modules. I thank Dr. Swati Dharmadikari. Just in the midnight, I gave her a call and she said, Jyoti, are you killing me? Just 2 days before you are asking me for a presentation. And thank you so much, Dr. Swati Dharmadikari Madam, that you have agreed on presenting a paper just on my one personal call. Thank you so much. And same with Dr. Keshav Valke, as I have said. Keshav, would you present? He said, yes, 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 I will present. So thank you so much for giving me such response in my one call. So thank you all of you. I also thank personally all my participants in this webinar that they have joined this webinar in this time period and had a patient listening. I am here to make an announcement of the upcoming webinar because we are organizing the series of webinars. So it is a pleasure to announce in front of all the participants over here about details of the next webinar we are going to have. Now, this next webinar is the webinar the Nagpur Childline under the aegis of Matru Seva Sangh Institute of Social Work is going to organize. So it's again international webinar, and the title of this webinar would be Child Protection and Juvenile Justice, an International Perspective. And for this, we have an international speaker. She is Professor Shiva Nirita. She is one of my friends we are the co-founders of the Research Center. And she is my best friend. And when I asked her, she said yes. So she is the international speaker. She will be joining with us as the international speaker. We have the speakers from India. We have Advocate Mrs. Kalyani Kapse. Then we have Devyani Tamma from Prayas, Mumbai. And Anuradha Vidyasarkar. She's from HED, Southern Regional Resource Center, Childline India Foundation. So this would be the proposed webinar, which will be held on 16th of July at 3 p.m. I urge and I appeal to all the participants to please join with us with this seminar also, rather webinar, and make it again a successful event. Because this organizing and webinar, it's not an easy job. Being in online, we have to coordinate a lot. And if this prior information is given, the registration would be rather quick and it would be manageable to the entire team. I thank you once again from myself and the Institute to all the speakers and participants, but formal vote of thanks would be given by the team. I also thank personally to my entire technical team. It's like our conference room is like Aaj News Channel kind of a look, because we all are sitting with our laptops and coordinating with each other and making this webinar
as friendly to the participants and to the speaker, avoiding all the nuisances and noises in between and all the disturbances they're trying to, overcome. So from my side, thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you, ma'am. All honorable management members of our college who motivated us to organize such a wonderful webinar. Respected Principal, Dr. Jyoti Niswade, ma'am, Matru Seva Sangha Institute of Social Work, respected all the resource person, Dr. Mani, Dr. Irfan, Dr. Ajit Kumar, Dr. Keshav Walke, Dr. Swati Dharmadi, ma'am, and all my dear participant friends. It's my privilege to propose the vote of thanks of this webinar. I, on the behalf of organizing secretaries, express very heartfelt gratitude to the Honorable Dr. Lata Deshmukh ma'am and management who encouraged us to organize this webinar. Here I would like to mention that Dr. Lata Deshmukh ma'am is our inspiration who really fully devoted, dedicated, determined for all our development of the institute, and she always takes active participation in every activity of the institute. Ma'am, without your support and encouragement, this could not have come into reality. Also, I would like to extend my special thanks to Principal Dr. Jyoti Niswade ma'am, Matru Seva Sangha Institute of Social Work, who really took great efforts for the successful of this webinar. I also thank for inspiring and guiding us throughout the preparation. Thank you very much, ma'am. My special thanks to Dr. Mani, Dr. Irfan, as a resource person. They threw light
temporary
on
art
in social work practice so many times of corona in quite details. The way they explained the topic is exemplary. Your tips and suggestions will certainly help us in our academic writing. Thank you, sir and ma'am. It's my privilege to thanks to Dr. Ajit Kumar sir for enlightening on the vulnerabilities and Indian village communities development practice domain. The session was really very wonderful, informative, and you presented very nicely, sir. Thank you very much. I also thanks to Dr. Mrs. Swati Dharmadhikari ma'am, who discussed on very important topic as for today's situation, that is the public health and role of local communities in COVID-19 crisis. Madam explained the medical evaluation, contemporary approach, public health, community participation, helped by the people. Thank you, ma'am. You have presented very nicely today's your lecture. I also I would like to thanks to Dr. Keshav Walke sir, focused on urban rural communities during COVID-19, national services schemes perspectives. Dr. Keshav Walke sir, who presently working on the Tiger Reserve and NSS, and elaborately shared his experience with case studies through the presentation. Sir, your session was very really interactive, informative, and so awesome. Thank you very much, sir. Once again, I thank you to all resource persons for sharing their thoughts with us, and I assure that this will be very fruitful to our dear participant friends. I heartily congratulate to all the participants on their attendance and active participation in this event. As no program can become successful without dedicated teamwork and effective coordination, I extend my big thank you to all our team members for your support. Thank you guys for making this event successful with your contribution. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation, my colleague and friend, Mr. Gajanan Netam, for his technical hard work. I also thanks to Dr. Nandita ma'am, Payal ma'am, and Sandeep Kota for their tireless efforts to make webinar grand success. I also thankful to all the teaching and administrative staff of the institute who always support us and stand with us to organize the events. Apologies if I forget to mention my heartfelt thanks to anyone. The feedback link will be provided in the Telegram group and in the chat box also. The certificates will be given only to those participants who have submitted the feedback form. The link will be disabled after 1.5 hours. Certificates will sent via email or Telegram group within 7 days. So thank you one and all for your kind cooperation, and stay home, stay safe, and enjoy the online learning. Thank you very much.